Thank you very much once again to welcome you to Maths Zone African Motives. Today I want us to look at English First Additional Language, Paper 3. So we are mainly going to focus on Section A. As you know, Section A for Paper 3 are the essays. So we are going to look at the descriptive essay. We are going to look at the descriptive essay where we are given the pictures. We are given a picture, where we are given a picture and we have to write essay on the given pictures. So now we are going to use a horse as our example. So we are going to say we are given a picture of the horse and then we have to write a descriptive essay on that picture. That's what you're going to look at today. So now you know very well when you're talking about a descriptive essay, it's all about painting a picture. You paint a picture. How so? You use a vivid language to describe a person, a place, object, or experiences. So descriptive essays engages senses again, like to say it appeals to readers' senses, sound, touch, sight, taste, and smell. It also creates atmosphere whereby it evokes emotions and atmosphere through descriptive details. So that's what descriptive essay is all about. So now we're going to look at the key points that are very important when writing what? When writing a descriptive essay where you are given a picture and you're to write essay on about that picture. That is where we're saying now we're going to use what the horse as an example, as the picture that is given, and then we have to write about what the horse. So that is that. Hope we are together. So like I've said, you get the key points in a descriptive essay using the horse as an example. So we're going to look at the key points. We're going to look at the key points that makes a our descriptive essay sound. That makes a sound descriptive essay. What should our essay entail to make it very sound? So now we are going to talk about these key points. The first one is the title. It's the title, meaning to say this picture which we talked about, which is a horse, you are to give it what a title, and that title should capture the subject. That title should capture what? The subject. That is that. Now we move on to the introduction. The introduction. So you introduce the picture and set the tone. You introduce the picture and set the tone. So you're going to introduce what? The picture and then set the tone. So now we are moving on to number 3, where we are going to talk about the physical description now. Physical description of what? Of our horse, because you're using horse as an example. Now you are to give a description of the horse. So when you give the description, you're going to talk about color, size, shape, texture, and the appearance of that horse. Give us that description about this of this essay of this object, of this animal, of this anything that you have to talk about. But right now we're talking about what? Horse. Then the details of the surroundings. The details of the surroundings. You describe. Here you're going to describe what is around the horse. You describe what is around the horse. That is where I know you're sitting on, or you give what the background, sitting on, giving of the background. You are going to tell us about what is around that horse. Hope we are together. Moving to 1.5 now, we are talking about the impressions, emotions. That is that. How the picture makes you feel. How the picture makes you feel. how the picture makes you feel. So that is that. Now coming to conclusion. Now you give us the reflection of final impression. About what? About the horse. So moving on. So now we come to conclusion now. Not conclusion, but language features to use. Language features to use. That's when you're talking about adjectives. Where we're going to talk about taller, smooth, golden, calm, powerful, figures of speech. Then we're going to talk about more metaphors, seeming, then sentence variety. So you cannot keep on using only simple tense or simple sentences. No, you have to vary them. You have compound, complex sentences and stuff. So these are key points that you are to use when writing what? A descriptive essay. So these are very important. When writing essay, make sure your essay have this. They have all these key points, because this is how the examiners mark what? The essay. They mark the essay based on these key points. So make sure that the essay that you're going to write, it is going to have all these key points, more especially when talking about what? A descriptive essay. So now let us come to the essay that I prepared for you and then see where if it has all these points that we have mentioned. Like we have talked about the horse, we have made the horse as our example. So you know very well that when you are writing essay, you are to write about 250 to 300 words. But right now we are just talking about what is important, what is needed in the essay. But don't forget about that instruction whereby you're to write 200 or 300 words, because those are marks. So you don't have to make any mistake when it comes to the number of words that are needed. But right now, let us go through this essay and let us read it together. That is the majestic horse. The majestic horse. So it reads as follows. The first time I looked at the picture, I was struck by the sheer beauty of the horse. Its tall frame stood proudly in the middle of the wide open field. The sunlight reflected on its smooth brown coat, giving it a golden glow that made it appear almost royal. Its mane flowed gently in the wind, each strand shining like a sling. The horse's deep, dark eyes seemed calm yet powerful, as if they carried thousand untold stories. Its strong legs, firmly planted on the ground, showed both grace and strength, reminding me that this is an animal is built for both speed and endurance. Behind the horse, the field stretched endlessly with green grass dancing in the breeze. Birds flew overhead, but the horse remained still, as though it owned the land it stood on. Looking at the picture, I felt a sense of peace, of admiration. It was a symbol of freedom, power, and beauty. So this is our essay. This is how our essay read. So now we are to identify those key points. We are to identify those key points in a descriptive essay to see that our essay have all those key points that we have talked about. So that is that. So firstly, we talked about a title. We talked about what a title, that you are to give your topic, what a title. Now we said we are going to talk about a horse. So we are saying the majestic horse. We are saying the beautiful horse, the majestic horse. So that is very important. That is very important. Remember, you have said the title should capture the subject. The title should capture the subject. So here, this is what the majestic horse. This is our title. Also remember we talk about the introduction or topic sentence. So as it says, the first time I look at the picture, I was struck by the sheer beauty of the horse. So that is our introduction. That is our introduction, where we introduce the picture and set the tone. We introduce the picture. Our picture is what? Is the horse. So we are introducing what? This picture by saying, the first time I look at the picture, I was struck by sheer beauty of the horse. So this is our introduction. This is our introduction or topic sentence. Topic sentence. That is that. We talked about this, where we said the introduce the picture and set the tone. So this is how we introduce our picture and setting what? The tone. So again, another key point in a descriptive essay, we talked about a physical description. Physical description, where we have said that's when you're going to talk about color, size, shape, texture, appearance. As you're told, this horse, it's a tall frame. It's a tall frame stood proudly. It's a tall frame stood proudly. So here we're talking about what? The description. Now we are describing this physical description of what? Of this horse. That is what? A physical description. That is a physical description. Now, when we are talking about what? That is a tall horse. That is that. Now we are trying by all means to describe it. Hope we are together on that. So we have said the sunlight reflected on its smooth brown coat. It's a smooth brown coat. Smooth brown coat. Also is what? It's a description. We are describing what? This horse. That is why we have said we are to talk about physical description. So moving on to another key point that our descriptive essay should have, we talked about details of surrounding, where we describe what is around the horse. What is around the horse? So as you can see now here, it says behind the horse. Behind the horse, the field stretched endlessly with green grass dancing in the breeze. So here we are talking about what? Details of surrounding. Here we are talking about what? Details of surrounding. Details of surrounding. Details of surroundings. Of surroundings. So that is that. We describe what is around what? Around that horse. So that is when you're saying behind the horse, the field stretched endlessly with green grass dancing in the breeze. So another key factor again, another key point, not to say key point in a descriptive essay, it's impressions and emotions. Impressions and emotions. How the picture makes you feel. We talked about this. How the picture makes you feel. As you can see there, looking at the picture, I felt a sense of peace and admiration. So here we're talking about impressions and emotions. We are talking about impressions and emotions. Impressions and emotions. How the picture makes you feel. So that's when I say, looking at the picture, I felt a sense of peace, admiration. Then we are to come up again with the conclusion. We said conclusion is a reflection or final impression. The horse was not just an animal, but it was also, it was not just an animal. It was a symbol of freedom. It was a symbol of freedom, power, and beauty. So this is what conclusion. This is what? Conclusion. We can now see that you're concluding now. So that is that. So another a key points in a descriptive essay we have said now is language features to use. Language features to use. That is when we're talking about adjectives, figures of speech, sentence variety like that. So as we have seen that with adjectives, that's when you're saying it's tall, it's smooth. That is that. Like we only want to go that these are the adjectives now. Talking about adjectives. Whenever you're saying is tall, is smooth, calm, powerful, you see, such should be in your essay. Should have adjectives. You should have figures of speech. Like we have talked about both metaphor, simile, metaphor. This is whereby we're saying it's a main flow gently in the wind, in the wind. It's a main flow gently in the wind. So this is a metaphor, as we can see when you're talking about what? A figure of speech. This is a meta. This is a metaphor. This is what? A metaphor. And you're saying each strand shining like sling. This is a simile. We are saying shining like what? Like a like a sling. So this is a simile. So this is where when you're talking about simile and metaphor, we're talking about what? Figures of speech. Figures of speech. Also, you have to vary what sentences. Don't rely on using what only simple sentence, but make sure that you are having complex sentences, compound, and stuff like that. So all these, make sure that when you write the essay, all these are there in your essay. When you are writing what a descriptive essay, when you are writing what descriptive essay, when you are writing a descriptive essay, make sure that these points are there. The title, you are giving a picture, make sure that that picture you're going to give it what? A title. A very interesting title that will capture the interest of the reader, that will impress the examiner. And then make sure that after the title, like we have said, make sure that you're going to talk about the topic sentence. Give us an introduction, introduce us to this picture and set the tone. After that, describe, give full description of what of this picture. That's when you're talking about physical description. Then after that, the surrounding of this picture. Like now we're talking about what? A horse. Give us what the surrounding of a horse. Then what are your emotions? What are your impressions about this picture? That is very important. What are your impressions about this picture? That's when now you give us how you feel about the picture. Then let us know and see that now you are concluding. Conclusion as well is very important. That give us what the reflection and the final impression. Not forgetting to use what language features to use. Adjectives, figures of speech, sentence variety. So that is that. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for your time. Make sure that you are going to use this presentation as to prepare for yourself for the coming sitting, for the coming exams that are coming. So uh, this is your free marks. That is how easy you can write what a descriptive is, more especially when you are given a picture and you are to describe that picture. Thank you very much.